Well, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have special guests, and they're going to speak about nutrition education, and they're from the California Dairy Council. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Good evening, Fullerton educators. Thank you for joining this webinar session. Our topic is the importance of nutrition education and how to deliver it through distance learning. Feel free to drop questions and comments in the chat at any time, and we'll do our best to answer these questions after each of the three sections. So this, I will have to activate it. So this is who we are. My name is Valerie Fung-A-Ling, and I'm a project manager with the Dairy Council of California. And I'm here with my two colleagues, Melissa and Celeste, who will introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Melissa Schupp. I am a 5th grade teacher at Arlington Heights Elementary in the Sacramento area.
And I am Celeste Reynoso. I am a program assistant for the Orange County Department of Education and the Student Achievement and Wellness Unit, specifically working on nutrition and health.
Great, thank you. So there's just a delay when I switch slides. Here we go. So just to give you a little bit of background about Dairy Council of California, for over a century, this has been our cause to elevate the health of children and families in the pursuit of lifelong healthy eating habits. And what we do is provide science-based nutrition education resources, training, and support, all at no cost for California. We believe nutrition education is not a one-size-fits-all solution, so we invite partners to join us in the Let's Eat Healthy movement, which is a platform we created to bring people together to champion the cause. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 parts to this webinar. In the next 15 minutes, I'll talk about the value of nutrition education through a new lens, the critical role in self-care, and how nutrition education supports social emotional learning. Then Melissa and Celeste will give you an overview of our new distance learning resources and how to implement them. So here you see 4-year-old little Beatrix practicing self-care. Bessie, her mom, is one of our community nutrition advisors. Beatrix learned yoga at preschool, and one afternoon her mom walked into the living room and saw her in this pose and took the picture. I think it's a cute example of the power of education regarding self-care. So what is self-care? In a Harvard Medical School article, self-care is described as simply meaning paying attention to and supporting one's own physical and mental health. How does nutrition play a role in self-care? According to the Surgeon General of California, nutrition is one of the 5 important self-care strategies she recommends to cope with stress and take care of our physical and mental health, which is critical during times of adversity. Self-care is something different for everyone. Some of us exercise, some do meditation, some do yoga. But what we all have in common is a need to fuel our bodies every day so we can thrive and function. Research shows that the food we put in our body directly impacts what we feel physically and emotionally. Breakfast is an example of this. Sadly, a student might come to school without breakfast. This might mean the difference between attentive learning all morning and falling asleep by 9 or 10 a.m. Adults are aware of self-care, but it's also important for children to learn these strategies so they can navigate life's challenges. Research confirms that eating wholesome, nutrient-rich foods versus heavily processed foods and choosing to consume a healthy eating pattern versus individual nutrient sources are key components for maintaining both physical and mental health. Research also confirms that childhood and teen years are a critical time for establishing healthy eating habits and educating young people on food and nutrition. It's far easier to build healthy habits early in life than break unhealthy habits later on. Celeste, actually, she's a public health expert. She shared a very insightful perspective with me as we were preparing for this presentation, and I'm paraphrasing. Although nutrition education is one piece of the whole child, whole health approach, the subject is so broad, it can bridge knowledge, skills, and awareness to all these self-care practices that you see on the right. And this speaks to the value of nutrition education and how it extends beyond the plate. Think about food as this universal, fun, and engaging topic that all kids can relate to. Lessons can teach the important link to health and well-being through healthy food choices. But in addition, it also teaches responsible decision-making, goal setting through food choices, respect for cultural differences, the mind-body connection, how foods impact our energy and feelings. And above all, it steers children towards building healthy eating habits, which in essence is a gift to them since these habits can last through their lifetime. All these concepts go hand in hand with social emotional learning. These are the core competencies I'm sure you're familiar with of social emotional learning. For those of you who are already integrating SEL in your classroom, consider for a moment how nutrition lessons and activities might provide opportunities for students to practice and reinforce these competencies. In the next 3 slides, I'll show you some quick examples of how our new online lessons naturally align to SEL practices. See if you can identify the SEL competency. And this will also be an introduction to our elementary online nutrition builders, which Melissa will share in more detail in a couple of minutes. So here's the first one. This is our online nutrition builders series, and this is the breakfast topic. This is just one slide out of several for this particular topic, but think about which SEL competency it could support. And I'll just give you a few seconds. You could shout out your answers if you want. If you have a sense, go right ahead. Anyone? How about self-management? I think this is a great example of practicing self-management and taking ownership of this very important healthy habit. I've seen firsthand that when students learn this 3 out of 5 healthy breakfast model, they feel pretty good about letting their parents know when their breakfast is not balanced. So they in fact become the teacher. Here's another one. Any guesses on which competency this might align to? Not everyone is integrating SEL, so no worries, it's not a quiz. So nutrition really is all about making responsible decisions about our food choices every day. So good practice for kids in figuring out how to make wise decisions and being aware as well. Nutrition is helpful in being aware of our energy level and feelings as they might relate to food. Last slide. So this could support social awareness. Exploring where food comes from helps students appreciate all the steps and the people involved in bringing healthy food to our plates. So that concludes my part. I hope it has inspired you to consider integrating nutrition education through self-care or social emotional learning. These are 2 important and relevant topics right now in schools, which is why I wanted to highlight them. But now we'll look to distance learning. Like all of you, we had to adapt our print curriculum to integrate with distance learning. So Melissa and Celeste will now share those resources. Thanks so much for your attention. Melissa, I'll pass the screen to you. I'm going to stop sharing, or there we go.
All right, and I'll grab mine.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, mine's not letting me share. Oh wait, there we go. There we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
Okay, we can all see that?
Yes.
All right, cool. And then let me just put it in present mode so that you can see it better. So my name is Melissa Schupp, and I, along with my brother-in-law, who actually is also a 5th grade teacher, worked with Dairy Council of California to take the online curriculum that they have and turn it into something that can be used in distance learning. And what's nice is, and I'm sure we're all figuring out, that there are some pieces that we're comfortable using paper, using resources that once digitized really do lend themselves to actually being more engaging in a digital environment, or more eco-friendly by using less paper. So our task was to take the paper versions that normally get delivered to the schools and turn them into online versions. So what's nice is that these are interactive Google Slides. So in creating these, we wanted to make sure that when students were completing them, if they were completing them asynchronously, or if they were presented with the information and completed as a class or as a group on Zoom, that they would be engaging, that they would give the students things to do rather than just things to read. So even in areas where they have to read, a healthy tip or something, we gave a spot where you can have the question mark, a check mark that you drag and place for the students to show that they completed that activity. And another thing that's nice is when you download these, you will get the PowerPoint version. And then, like it says down here, there's tutorials included how to add them as a Google slide and add them into Google Classroom. And so if you're comfortable with PowerPoint, you can still use it in that format and figure out how it best fits your classroom. But once you get the Google slide version, that slide deck is your own. So if you want to split it up into 2 slide decks because you think it's too much, or if you need to add in some components for some English language learners or add some audio directions, all of those things can be done because it makes a copy of the slides for you. There is an educator and a student version. So the educator version, and I'm going to show you examples of them. The educator version is ideally what, 1, you would present, and 2, it gives you some information, including standards that are covered in the lessons, and some other information, as well as the tutorials for how to use. They are pretty easy to use, and I think that as more and more of us, we've had to spend more time in this digital world, we've gotten more comfortable with them. But the nice part is, like I said, they're very customizable, and they all follow a similar format too. So if you download the first one and it takes you a little bit to get used to, as you move through the different topic areas, you'll find that there are some repeats in the formatting and things, which makes it easier for both you and students to acclimate to the format. And then, like I mentioned, we made tutorials for how to download, because you do have to download the PowerPoint and then upload as a slide deck. And so we've tried to give tech troubleshooting tips, as well as videos with screen grabs showing how to use those things. So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible for teachers, so that then they are feeling comfortable and willing to use it with students. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing this part of my screen, and I'm going to reshare showing some of the builders that are currently online, including the snacks builder, the farm to you, and the breakfast. 2 of them are the educator version, and then 1 is the farm to you is the student version. So I'm going to stop sharing that real quick. So can you guys see my snack screen now? Yes, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure before I moved on. So this is the snacks builder, which is the educator version. So you can see up here when I downloaded it that it named it educator, so I can keep them straight. And what's nice is when you're using these in Google Slides, which is why we recommend putting it into slides rather than into keeping it in PowerPoint is that we have built in a lot of interactive features that only exist in the Google Slide version. So when you're presenting it, right, you would want to go into your presentation mode, right? So you would click present. So then you can see the full screen version of it. But what's nice is, like now, when I click this arrow down here, see how my arrow's black, but when I move it down to the corner, I get a little hand, because this now becomes a button and it's going to take me to my next slide. And this table of contents, as you can see with the little hand, the hand means that it's clickable. And all of these things are like bookmarks that will take you to our Explore section, our Explain section, and our Empower section. And then many of them have the home button, which will take you right back here to this slide. So if I move forward to the Explore section, there, each of them starts with some fast facts about the topic area. So this would be, you know, talking about snacks, and all of them you see here, it has a mark done in the box when finished reading. And in the present mode, when I try to click on them, it moves to the next one. So that's why, and we've included these instructions, is when students are doing these, they need to be in an edit mode, which if you've had your students complete anything in Google Slides, we know that to be true. They have to be in edit mode to interact with it. So in the teacher version, you would really just be showing them these, you know, as is, and saying, okay, and make sure you move these down here. So you can see there's a video here. There's videos embedded in each one. And there's just some activities. So like this one, they're going to drag and drop how they feel before, you know, before a snack and then after the snack. So this one, we try to make them fun for the students. So this one's using emojis, and they're going to drag in the boxes, you know, how they felt after eating their snack. And so it's just a student-friendly way to get them interacting. So, and then also on the educator version, you notice when I clicked present, it skipped this slide and this slide because they're meant to be hidden. And that is, this shows you your standards where it hits and it crosses over with ELA. And, you know, we tried to show some rationale as to why you might use it. And then this is those are the tutorials that you might need on how to use them. So the student version, this is of the Farm to You. Looks very similar to the educator version, but you can see over on my left-hand side that I'm missing the tutorial and the standards. And I'm going to leave this in edit mode so that way you can see the difference. So the buttons, like this button here to go to the next slide, does not work in the student mode, but the goal is that you've presented the material already with your group, and that then if you give this to them to do, they're going to just be completing the activity portion of it. So for example, if I move to slide 4, the fast facts, it gives them 3 fast facts about our Farm to You stuff. So there's 2 slides of that, and they can grab this check mark and move it over here when they're done. And so and if you do in Google Classroom, when you assign this or however you're giving it to them, you can select an option for them to get their own copy of it. And then that way you'll be able to see if each student did it on their own. And then there's the video. So like this one, you can see it says click on different places to learn more. So when they click on it, okay, it will take, in present mode, it would automatically take them, but they can go here and that's going to take them to slide 8. And so it's nice because this is like an interactive map that will move them around. So you can take the slides out, assign what you want, split it up how you want. There are 3 sections: Explore, Explain, Empower. So especially if you have younger ones, you might want to split them up into different days so that way, you know, you can make sure that they're not getting overwhelmed. What's nice is that most of the sections do also end with some kind of written response or something a little, you know, more thoughtful from the students, so you can kind of see what they're getting out of it. So, and then you can see the Explain section. They're all color coordinated so that, you know, you and the students know what section they're in. And then the Empower section is meant to, you know, Explore tells them some information, Explain kind of goes a little bit further. And then the Empower is meant to be like a, how does this apply to you? And how do you use this? And try to make it a little bit applicable for the students. So you can see here, they're going to drag and drop It says drag each image to the correct box and they're going to move that there. So it's just an opportunity for the students to interact, in a fun way to the content. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys about that. We wanted to, like I said, make sure that these, I'll click through these while I'm on here. This is the breakfast builders. You guys can get a little preview. Oh wait, I did the breakfast. No, I didn't. I did snacks. So we just wanted to make sure that all of these give students good information, but that they are colorful. They're presented in a way that are, student friendly. And like I said, they're very customizable. If you need to add in some audio directions or audio so that it reads it to them. I know I have friends that are teaching, in first grade right now, and they add an audio button to everything so that it reads the slide to them. And all of that can be done once you have your own copy. So that makes it nice and editable for you to make it user-friendly for your students. So unless anybody has any questions. All right. So seeing none, I'm going to pass it off to Celeste.
Thank you. All right, so let me share my screen. Are we able to see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Great. So similar to what Melissa did, and such a great job on those topical scenarios to make things more interactive for students. As a collaboration from the Orange County Department of Education, we had a similar idea to make Google Slides asynchronous and synchronous option for students, but also in adapting student educator guides and student workbooks. So the Dairy Council of California, if you aren't aware of some of the things that they provide, are student educator guides and student workbooks for K through 5th grade levels that allow you to teach these topics by lesson. So each grade level will have a series of lessons. And what we've done is that we've essentially adapted these lessons to make them presentable via Google Slides. So these components and these lessons all have distance learning elements embedded in them, and some of them include Kahoots, Jamboard, Google Sheets, ThingLink, and Screencastify. Like Melissa had mentioned, all of these things are interchangeable and can be adapted by every teacher. So if you want to record over your screens, if you want to add more Screencastifies, if you want to do a combination of topical slides, they can all be done in the same way and similar fashion because they are all embedded within Google Drive and easily accessible to upload to Google Classroom. So I'm going to give a couple of examples of the curriculum that we have developed, and for that I will stop sharing this screen and then continue to the other one. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Wasn't so sorry about that. Okay, so this is an example of lesson 4, balanced day, and what it would entail. So as you run through them, we always start with student objectives, and it gives them a brief overview of the objectives that they will be encountering throughout the lesson. It also goes into detail on the different definitions of the foods that they will be eating or the lesson, and those definitions and vocabulary are included. Everything is in relation to student educator guides that are available from Dairy Council. Supplemental videos are also embedded within a couple of presentations, and this is just to accommodate for different students. I know that some students are visual learners, so these were all created with the idea of universal design, of learning, and incorporating different components of those. Different lessons also have a highlight or a specific vocab that they want to focus through on. In this specific lesson, it was moderation. So these act as reminders of what those vocab are, what they should focus on for the purpose of each lesson. And some of these slides are also interactive elements. And the idea is to not overwhelm and overload students with too much information at once. So as they click through, they can have different bubbles pop up on their screen so they can see just different ways of what a balanced meal looks like and why it's good for you. And then it can also redirect you to balanced meal plans and healthy recipes on screen if they choose to explore those options. So one of the greatest things that is really good for teachers that has been embedded within these lessons, and I did an example of a screencastify over here, is that you can also give students direct instruction if you're doing this asynchronously. For 5th grade, it requires a lot of students for 3 days to record their daily food and beverage consumption, but it is a little hard to do that if they are not using the student workbooks and you're not able to check their student workbooks in the classroom. So what we have created are Google Slide sheets that you simply would click on to the hyperlink, and these are already forced copy. So you would make a copy of this. And in making a copy, it will take you to a food and beverage record that is a Google sheet that students can customize. So if I was a student, I would simply go into, it's already made a copy, I would simply go into it and maybe add my name. And then I would go and add what food I had for breakfast, what food I had for lunch and beverage. And they're recording this for a period of 3 days. So on the tabs below, you can see that day 1, day 2, and day 3 have already been added. So as a student, I would go in and record these day 1, day 2, day 3, and then maybe after the course of 3 years, 3 days, you start, this would be turned in or submitted as a homework assignment for teachers, and they could go in and would be able to grade this or be able to see, or students can go back and reference. The great thing about this is that once you make a copy, as Melissa had described, once you make a copy of these items, they automatically save into your Google Drive. So they're easily accessible and then are able, easy to input and submit to Google Classroom since they are so interchangeable. So those are some really great features that have been added to some of the lesson plans. And a coordination for those, there's also physical activity records, which function in a similar way. So similar to the daily food and beverage log, there is one for physical activity. And again, you would make a copy, students would make a copy, can personalize it, and then they would add what physical activity they did, how many minutes they engaged in it, whether it was low level or moderate to vigorous. And then these numbers, which is a really great feature, is that these numbers will do a running total. So if they engage for 30 minutes and then maybe engage for 10 minutes, it would do a running total of how many minutes they engaged, again, over the course of 3 days. And then at the end, it would also give you a stats overview of how many minutes you had engaged in physical activity. So that is another feature that is embedded within these lesson plans, and that is easily accessible for educators. Another great thing that we have embedded all throughout are Kahoot games. And the Kahoot games are in relation to the topic of the lesson plan itself. So students would go in and enter the game pin or access the game pin with the hyperlinks that have been embedded within the presentation. The really great thing about these is that these hyperlinks are already embedded into the presentation. So it really is a just one stop, click here and then you're able to access all of these materials and all of these interactive elements. And this is a homework assignment that is embedded within the educator guide. And then if they do an edit, they can write their responses on these lines, or they could fill them out on their own time. And maybe you have a simple way of documenting those. Each lesson always ends with a class recap of the 3 main takeaways. And I always try to tie these back to the student objectives that were introduced in the first slide. I feel like sometimes when we are given objectives in the beginning, we sometimes forget what they were. So a great recircling back and a great recap of what those objectives are really gives students that takeaway and what they really should have learned during these lessons. And just a friendly reminder, so this one was about serving signs. There were servings of each of the 5 food groups, so there's always a don't forget reminder at the end. All of the lessons have been created and have been created in a similar fashion to keep consistency, and that is so students become familiar with them and become can easily associate them, and if they are doing different lessons can easily recognize that this is the format of all of the lessons. Really quickly, I wanted to show another element that is embedded into some of these presentations. So for some of these presentations, we included interactive displays through Thing-Link. And the way that this works is it would take them to another page and they can explore by clicking how healthy eyes and skin are produced by vegetables and vitamin A, or how healing is provided by fruits and vitamin C. So these are another interactive elements that are embedded within the presentation, and it's just another added substitutes of how it can make things interactive for students and not just be looking at a PowerPoint presentation. And then another great feature is if we feature images like this on nutrition facts and labels, and we want to then say something about it, they'll have like certain pop-ups and things that will pop up on screen and show you what items to focus on. So those interactive elements and displays are embedded through a lot of the PowerPoint presentations as a way to just keep students engaged and continue to learn important skills in nutrition in an interactive and engaging manner. So yeah, that is what I have created. If those PDFs, if you aren't aware with the Dairy Council guides, let me show you really briefly. These are the educator guides that you can download on the nutrition resources. And so the way that these lessons have been created, they include the student objectives and all of these check marks that include certain symbols that represent a key concept that should be discussed in activities as being completed. These key concepts are what you saw throughout the PowerPoint presentation. So all of these elements are embedded into interactive way. So essentially what these slide decks are a supplement and companion to this educator guide that you can download. And then it has just been made easier, hopefully, that is a plan, so that you can just integrate them into your Google Classroom and teach them in a synchronous or asynchronous fashion. So this is just another way to try to take things off, I know teachers really busy plates, and associate them into an interactive way through Google slide decks. So if you are wondering where you can access all of these amazing resources, you can access them directly on healthyeating.org. On the nutrition resources for online learning, you will see that here you have a link that shows you how to share to a Google Classroom. You can download the technology tutorial guide, watch a video tutorial, and then also have this curriculum. So the curriculum is the one that I showed you before, where you can download these educator guides and student workbooks in PDF or hard copy versions for each grade level. And then right here, you can see what Melissa presented. So here are the nutrition builder presentations for distance learning. And then those are also in companion to different grade levels. And below on topical resources, again, our nutrition builder presentations for distance learning, but also right here are the partner developed distance learning instructional slides. And these are the ones that are created to support the healthyeating.org curriculum that you can find above. So really this is a one-stop shop for all of you educators where you can access everything in one place, download as PDFs, and have readily available to you to use. And it's just another really great way of just going to one place and accessing all of these things. Also included in this is an educator's toolkit. A lot of these things may be unfamiliar to some or to others. So let's say that you're not really familiar with how to use Jamboard or how to use Kahoot or how to use Screencastify or ThingLink. In this educator's toolkit, I have recorded a couple of videos that are less than 4 minutes, less than 3 minutes, that show you how to create a Jamboard or how to create a Kahoot and how to create a Screencastify. So those are available to you. They're like mini YouTube tutorials, but for educators on how to use these distant learning resources that may be so new, but also so helpful to so many. So yeah, that is my presentation. Valerie, would you like to chime in for closing?
Well, thank you both. Thank you both, Melissa and Celeste. It was really a nice overview. That pretty much concludes our presentation. We're available for questions, of course. We're just hoping